I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Shouldn't be trusting me, I could be making it all up, you know. Control, you don't know me. I'm a danger to myself.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you are tuning in. This is Unapologetically Me, featuring me. No special guest, just me. All right, you guys, are you ready for part 3? We're going to find out what this principal had to say after this teacher detailed some very disturbing behavior. Why? It was not even safe to have Nikolas Cruz in a regular school. Hang on to your hats, everyone, because I'm about to read to you the response that she received. And it wasn't the next day, it wasn't the next week, but 1 full month later. The assistant principal sent a follow-up email 1 month later. And this is what it said. In additional interventions, please be advised that N. Cruz will be shadowed by his mother when he chooses to run or walk out of class in his attempts of avoiding getting into trouble. His mother will be called immediately when it happens to come to the school and shadow him for the rest of the day. Or she will shadow him the following day. So basically, if he gets in trouble at the end of school, she'll come tomorrow and shadow him. As a result of today's incident of him running out of class, Mom will come and shadow him tomorrow. No, I don't know about you guys, but say you're in 7th grade or 8th grade and there's a kid in your class that is constantly acting out, and then his mother comes to school to shadow him, which I don't understand. He's behaving badly at home as well. So I don't know what his mom being there to shadow him, is going to do positively for anybody other than further distract the students that are in class. I'm just starting to think what's going on with the other kids in his class and in the school. Like, they're just having to sit through this day in and day out. So not only is Nikolas Cruz not getting the help that he so desperately, clearly needs, but the other students in class are not getting the education that they need. The email goes on to say this. On another note, please do not alert him to when you are going to call security to have him removed as a result of his inappropriate behavior. Please call discreetly or send a student to the front office to alert security. When he hears the teacher say that they're calling for security, in his mind, he needs to escape the situation to avoid getting in trouble. All right, I'm going to interject here I would say one more time, but I'd be lying to you again, because again, they are wanting to use another student to help in this situation. Students are not there to babysit their classmates. I mean, it's one thing to be kind and to, make sure that if someone needs help with, something, or they need to borrow a pen or whatever, but to basically help carry another troubled student who's also violent. Students are there to learn. And not only is class time being interrupted, but the other students are expected to leave class in order to get security for another classmate. Does this sound fucked up to anybody but me? In regards to that last paragraph of the email, where he talks about in his mind he needs to escape the situation to avoid getting in trouble. No. He's fucking playing all of you. All right? He knows exactly what he's doing, and it's working, and it always has, and it always does, and it always will, as you will see eventually. The final paragraph of this email read, I know that this issue is not conducive to you all doing your jobs to the best of your ability, but rest assured that we are working to ensure that N. Cruz is in the best situation possible to be academically and behaviorally successful. Please continue to work with us as we undergo the process of observation and decision making. Thank you in advance. Nikolas Cruz's teacher just did everything she was supposed to do, diligently documented the student's deranged behavior for months, relayed the threatening statements that he's made, as well as his troubling preoccupation with guns, killing, and even cannibalism. Now put yourself in her shoes. All of your colleagues have had similar experiences with the same student. You have expressed the opinion supported by extensive data that Nikolas Cruz is a danger to others and belongs in a specialized school. Then, after 6 weeks of that diligent documentation, you get that email from your assistant principal. Also imagine that 3 weeks later, armed with all of this data from the functional behavior assessment, your assistant principal sends you a new positive behavior intervention plan, or PBIP, that provides these exact instructions for managing his behavior. Now, you guys, if you don't have a drink or a snack, you might want to go grab one now, because we are going to get into this bullshit email that was sent. You guys ready? All right. It said, if Nikolas becomes disruptive, try to assess what's causing it. 2, if he seems to be struggling with his work, do not comment on his behavior or argue with him. Prompt him to request help appropriately. For example, Nick, I can see you need help with that. The way to ask is to raise your hand. As if she hasn't done all of these things, That's why it just pisses me off, because it's like, don't you think she's already exhausted this? She literally sent you an email giving you the data and everything that the state and everything requires to move this kid to another school, and you legit basically told her to fuck off. And now you're not only doing that, you're patronizing her by sending her a list of things to do that she's obviously already done and don't work. Number 3, if he does not seem to need help but wants to get others off task for attention or escape, do not comment on his behavior or argue with him. If he escalates, prompt him to take a break or use a cool down pass. Remind him that this is not a reward break, but just a brief work break. For example, I can see this is bothering you. You want to take a 5-minute break? Then you can get back on track and earn your reward. Can I throw up now, or should I just wait till later? I guess this is how we're treating violent psychopaths these days, by coddling them. And if you think this is bad, just wait. If he continues to escalate, follow procedures for major disruption or property destruction, which are, if Nikolas destroys property at a lower level, calmly let him know that he has not followed one of the expectations. Remind him what he's working for. What is he working for? What is he working for? I don't understand. Do they give out treats like little cookies or candies? What is he working for? Because he's not going to behave just simply to behave. For one, he can't. He has a disability. Prompt him to use a cool down pass and walk away to defuse the situation. 3, if he does not escalate, allow him to cool down until he has regained control. And 4, if he continues to escalate, follow procedures for major disruption or property destruction. I would have fucking quit. If Nikolas engages in major disruption or property destruction, 1, let Nikolas know, you're getting too loud. I need for you to get back into control by using a cool down pass or calming down at your desk. If you get back into control, you can stay in class. If you continue, I'll need for you to leave. As if he even cares. You honestly think he cares? Oh, if you can get back in control, you can stay in class. Okay. 2, walk away and do not pay attention to his behavior. 3, If Nikolas regains control, praise him for being able to stay in class. 4. If Nikolas continues after a brief increase in behavior, call for support staff to remove Nikolas. 5. Send his work with him so that schoolwork is not avoided. 6. Do not argue with Nikolas or engage him. 7. When class is over, Nikolas needs to go to his next class and the behavior plan should reset. Meaning, when he goes to the next class, it's like whatever happened in the previous class never happened. Where's the discipline? Where's the help? And where are these poor other kids in these classes? Like, what is happening for them? This is just so ridiculous. If you think I'm being a bitch or you think I'm being cold, I have a child with an IEP. I have children without an IEP. I have a kid that is high honors, and I have another kid who struggles. To be completely honest with you, I don't like it when my one that gets really, really good grades is paired with the kids that are having a hard time because she's not learning anything. Yes, it's fine every once in a while. My one that, is dyslexic and has issues, they laugh at her. They make fun of her. And that's how I first realized that there was a problem. She didn't want to raise her hand in class to say anything because she read so slow. And at that time, we didn't know yet that she was dyslexic. But it was embarrassing for her to be there. And she wasn't getting that specialized attention that she needed. They didn't even know any of this. I had her tested after things that she told me. So it was like she wasn't getting what she needed at all, and it's disrupting to the class. I don't understand why, as a parent, you wouldn't want your kid to get as much help as they possibly can, because it's going to help them get to where they need to be so that they can be successful in life. And as far as the other kids in class, it's not fair for them to have to be disrupted and to essentially not learn either. I mean, there are kids that have ADD and ADHD that are so easily distracted as it is, but they don't have that behavior disorder part, and they're able to be in class, but it's hard for them to focus. They have to try really hard to do that. And to have another kid in class that has these issues, it's not okay. It's just not. I understand the Inclusion Act. I understand all of that. And to a certain extent, I agree with it. But when it comes to this, I mean, this should never be okay. Right? I mean, who agrees, who doesn't agree? Go ahead and put it in the comment section. Don't worry. I've been trolled. I've been bitched at. I've been whatever. You're not going to offend me, okay? I'm curious. He also put a note at the bottom that said, for behaviors where others' safety is a concern, such as throwing objects at others, which may injure them, like books, immediately call for assistance and implement safety procedures. So I'm not sure exactly what that is, but all I know here is basically the data-driven decision regarding Nikolas Cruz's behavior was that the teacher should basically ignore it unless he commits some major disruption or property destruction or directly threatens physical safety of other people. This district policy required that teachers implement this PBIP for at least 6 weeks before Cruz could transfer to Cross Creek. By this point, some teachers refused to even allow him into their classroom. They were informed by school administrators that that was not permitted. So, we have teachers that are possibly in fear for themselves and for their students that are forced to have this kid in their class. Remember what I said earlier, that this is a distraction to the other students' education. Another example of this is this poor girl by the name of Isabel. And she was deputized by school administrators to be Cruz's peer counselor as a part of the Broward County Public Schools' new focus on restorative justice. Let's briefly talk about what restorative justice is, what it means in the education world. Restorative justice, or RJ, actually comes from the world of criminal justice, where after a criminal serves his prison sentence and he's released, he's encouraged to make amends with his victims. But in K through 12 education, rather than try to make amends after a punishment, restorative justice is done instead of punishment. It includes practices such as reparative dialogues to address the root causes of misbehavior, healing circles, and peer counseling. In many school districts, restorative justice has become a catch-all term that allows adults to ignore misbehavior by arguing that students are responsible for their peers' behavior. So what I'm gathering from this is they're basically saying that it's the other students' fault, innocent students' fault, that a crazy person with a mental illness is allowed on campus. Do I have that about right? They should be the ones being punished for it or babysitting him. After the school shooting, Isabel described her peer counseling experience with Nikolas Cruz to the New York Times, and this is what she said. My first interaction with Nikolas Cruz happened when I was in 7th grade. I was eating lunch with my friends, most likely discussing One Direction or Ed Sheeran, when I felt a sudden pain in my lower back. The force of the blow knocked the wind out of my 90-pound body, and tears stung my eyes. I turned around and I saw him smirking. I had never seen this boy before, but I would never forget his face. His eyes were lit up with a sick, twisted joy as he watched me cry. I don't remember if Mr. Cruz was confronted over his actions, but in my 12-year-old naivete, I trusted that the adults around me would take care of the situation. A year after I was basically assaulted by Mr. Cruz, I was assigned to tutor him through my school's peer counseling program. It was the first real responsibility I had ever had, my first glimpse of adulthood, and I took it very seriously. Despite my discomfort, I sat down with him, alone. I was forced to endure his cursing me out and ogling my chest until the hour-long session ended. When I was done, I felt a surge of pride for having organized his binder and helped him with his homework. Looking back, I'm horrified. I now understand that I was left unassisted with a student who had a known history of rage and brutality. My little sister is now the age that I was when I was left alone with Mr. Cruz, anxious and defenseless. The thought of her being put in that same situation fills me with rage. I don't know what you consider leaving a young girl alone with a boy who by all accounts was considered dangerous and violent, and he had those whack-ass sexual weird things. But if it were my daughter, I would consider it to be abusive. But in schools across the country, this is what passes for social justice. Cruz was in 8th grade at this time, and at this point, he had been referred to the Promise program. Now, I very briefly went over the Promise program in one of my first videos about this, letting you know that that was basically the only form of punishment that kids in Broward County School District faced. And the same month that he was referred to this Promise program, Cruz ran into the middle of a busy road during a fire drill. And he would have been killed if the oncoming car hadn't stopped in time. This was said to be a suicide attempt. A female student made a comment about how he could have died, which a teacher told her, "Don't worry, he's going to go somewhere where he can get the help he needs now." Unfortunately, that teacher was incorrect. Cruz's suicide attempt was actually categorized by his teacher as gross insubordination and aggressive and dangerous behavior. Even worse still, school administrators rejected that categorization. Instead, they categorized it as a minor act of disruption. No lie, no cap. I am not kidding. Minor act of disruption is during a fire drill, a child running out into the middle of the street hoping to get hit by a car. Had Cruz been involuntarily put into a some type of psychiatric observation, put into a mental hospital, whatever, under Florida's Baker Act, things would have been so much different. It would have for certain at least, accelerated the process of sending him to Cross Creek. So we're going to stop, and we will continue this in another video. We will get more into the Promise program, and we will get more into what the hell is going on here. Now, in case you were wondering what the Baker Act is, it basically is a way for someone to involuntarily put someone into a psychiatric hold. Some people know it as a 5150. Baker Act is something that they were using at the time, and any one of the teacher could have invoked this. His mother could have invoked this, the assistant principal, the principal. There's so many people could have invoked this at several different times, but they didn't. So we're going to get into all of that in the next few videos, and eventually we will wrap this up, I promise. So I hope that you guys are learning some things. When we really close in is when we'll talk some more about what we should do, okay, if you want. So I will see you guys then. Please don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button. If you didn't hate this video, I would love it if you liked it, because it really does help me out. And again, if you've been wavering along the lines of whether or not to subscribe to me or not, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button, even if you're just interested in this part, and hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I put out a video, because otherwise you're probably not going to see me. So I'll see you guys later. Have a good week.
Oh, you don't know me. I am fading unfelt.